Yeah.
So
For our case, we probably wouldn't have that many servers for ECR.
Yeah,
So would-
ECRs, I'm thinking,
Better not.
So would you do a comments limited or
Yeah.
space limited? How would you
Comments.
comments limited? Okay.
yeah. So I just don't want to slough it off that it's really not that important, because we are looking at it, and it's not required.
I think the
But-
critical piece is the related items, right?
Yeah.
That's where the association between the change and the asset has to occur, right? You remember federated data that was spoken, we spoke about earlier? That federated data will only show this CR if the asset is related here. If the asset is not related, it will not show up in federated data.
So if you open up the CR from within the problem ticket, is that automatically filled out?
No, you have to put it in there.
Okay.
You have to relate the asset.
Kinda get
The
into it.
relationship is the problem ticket gets tied to the CR.
Okay.
The other information you have to fill in.
Okay. So it doesn't pull CI
No,
or anything.
no.
It just
That relationship between the problem and the change is built.
basically just says here's a trouble ticket.
Sorry?
Is that required now?
Yeah, a problem ticket has to be associated with an ECR. Extremely important. You have to tie those two pieces together. You cannot, so remember the answer you gave in the first tab here, main info. You are doing a problem, right? When you select that, and if you don't relate a problem ticket to the change, and you submit it, it's going to tell you, hey, you don't have a problem ticket associated, but you selected the reason as a problem. The system will tell you. Yes, it'll tell you.
Darn the system.
Yeah. You have to tie the problem ticket to the change. Extremely important.
Is there any way, since we're going to do it, to have that CI or any of the other assets that are added on the related items, have a problem, have a lot of populated related items, the assets have that?
An announcement that we'll have to submit, but yeah, as of today, it doesn't do it.
Yeah, I understand if we open here and attach the problem ticket to ECR, if we're open to run the problem ticket, Pack already has the assets.
Right. I know what you're saying.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it does it. Okay, cool.
We can take that, see if, I mean, again, it has to go to the PAC team, determine if that's possible, if it can be done. You got a question?
Click in that related items tab and see if the problem is listed in there?
It's
He
not.
didn't go
He
through
didn't.
He didn't go through it.
So if you open the CR from within the problem ticket, that information is in here. We didn't do that, right? So here, what we'll do is we'll put the asset name, and then you essentially say add item, right? For example, let me do one. So RUWZD 4105. So you say add item, the asset gets tied, and if we have our trouble ticket, let's see here. I can take this number and tie that also. Or I can go to the related items and tie the change record here. So there are two ways you can tie it, right? I can say change request and put that number here. So let's take this problem ticket number and say I'm going to associate the problem. And that is an item ID, not an asset ID. And you tie it together. And here's the question that the system is going to ask you. Is this change causing the problem? Is this change fixing the problem? What's the answer in our case? Well,
Fixing.
It's fixing.
why would not change cause the problem? Can you think of scenarios where it can?
Because we're problem fixers, not problem.
True. True. Yeah, I mean, there are scenarios where change can cause a problem, right? You implement a change, something unintended happened. You triggered a set of alerts on the system. When you have problem tickets that get triggered because of a change, you have to associate it saying change causing problem.
Isn't that what all the HPSA failed installs?
Yeah,
Weren't
absolutely.
they? I mean,
Absolutely, yes. Because
So you can add
No, I
more
think
than
it
one
comes.
trouble
I
ticket.
think
Oh,
Jay
absolutely.
put that in
Okay,
there.
so
yeah,
Yeah,
if
because
it,
I went out
after
there and
this, it starts
you know,
spawning a
the
bunch
CRs and stuff were in
opioids
there.
or whatever.
you
just
tie it.
like-
Yep, that's correct.
Okay,
At least in the
all
ones
right.
I did.
You can have multiple problem tickets tied to a CR. Yeah.
Okay.
'Cause we
I
were
mean,
supposed to add
that
it.
when you
Well,
do
that's
this,
already here.
there are some things that happen here in the close info tab. That's why you have some questions. Did this change cause a problem? Was there a customer impact? You answer those questions, yes. You know what I mean? And then that answer impacts the group that implemented the change, right? And it impacts the risk long term. Because, ECM says, hey, this team, the changes that they've done have usually been risky. I'm going to bump the severity or the impact number for them. You know what I mean? So it's all tied together. I mean, all these things have been really thought out. There's a reason why this is
A lot of times we
No
pick that
cussing.
problem.
No cussing.
right.
No, I'm recording. Oh, you can cut it.
risk, on the risk tab there, that value is calculated?
Yeah, it is.
So, you just mentioned if a specific group is making changes that are causing problems, that risk, their risk value will,
Yep, it keeps going up, yeah.
can they get around that by changing their group name?
Changing their group.
Inside pack, so, you know, say group, you know, whatever. Group A has made a couple of changes
Yeah.
that have impacted a bunch of servers, so their risk value is gone up. And their management says, hey, you know, let's change our group name from group A to group WZ.
Probably have to open a new group.
Yeah.
There
I-
isn't. Well, I was thinking if you rename the group, there is an audit of the rename of the group. So
Well, it's the.
There's always ways
the
to
group has
circumvent the
index
system,
key.
you know what I mean?
Inside the
But
process.
is it something folks are gonna do? I hope not.
Okay.
You can always circumvent the system.
Yeah.
But just because your value's gone up, I'm gonna go through all the trouble of creating a new group. I don't think folks are gonna do that.
Let's do it, man. Let's do it.
Yeah. And I'm sure there's gonna be somebody watching, you know, saying, you already have a group. There are ways to beat the system. That's all I'm saying.
Does that really apply though, since overwhelming majority of what we do is skip, so people still not apply?
Yeah.
Just, you know, this kind of CR.
I think it's the after effect. So as far as emergency changes, if your change is already done, you know what I mean? You have implemented it. Yeah, your calculation is not a math. It's more of how many schedule changes, how many changes you've done over a period of time, whether they have been successful. Now I will tell you, there can be a scenario where you do implement an emergency change and it can cause a problem. Maybe not immediately, 2 days down. That can also happen, right? And in that scenario, they will tie a problem ticket back to your CR, and that will change your risk. So that's possible.
Okay, so this one is change fixing the problem.
Sorry.
Change fixing the
This one's
problem.
change
This one
fixing
is
the
change
problem.
fixing the problem, yes. So we click on change fixing the problem here in this particular scenario. Okay, so let's go back to the main info tab. You put in your description. Again, description is, this checklist is just giving you, some information on what questions should you answer in those specific fields, right? So what would you put in this description, in this scenario here?
Updating VMware tools.
Okay, fair enough.
Server's broken, fixing it.
That's be non-technical, right?
Yep. Yeah. I mean, we don't want to get into details on going to the virtual center and, you know what I mean?
Right.
Try to keep it as simple as possible. That's one way. I mean, again, you will have your own style. The approach is make it non-technical, right? Some folks do this. They annotate it with the server name and then put what they're trying to do under the change record. Right? This is also acceptable. Again, non-technical content.
This kind of characteristic as well. It's pretty big.
Say it again.
It's just a brief description.
Kind of characteristic as well.
There is a limitation. I've never hit it, but there is a limitation. Again, non-technical, very short. You don't want to put a lot of content there because it's a very brief description. When you go to the installation game plan, that's where you put an entire summary. And exactly step by step, as detailed as you can. Right? So when this change goes through an approval process, if you don't want to be called and asked, hey, what are you trying to do? You've not been descriptive enough, right? Try and document as much as you can. Be as detailed as you can, right? It will help you plan your change better, right? So you know exactly what's going to happen, what's the sequence of steps. Now, if it is an ECR, the change has already occurred, just document what you did, right? I downloaded the hotfix onto this system, this location, ran the installer, you know what I mean? Installed it, did a reboot. So just document those steps here. If you are engaging other teams and they have steps to execute, in your sequence of steps, make sure you include those instructions too, right?
Business case.
Sorry?
The templates.
Yeah.
You use templates and stuff.
So that's where we essentially go back. So templates is something we spoke about during our roadshow even in Charlotte, and we're going to try and do that. So here's what we have stated, business case. So these are the questions you answer when you're filling up the business case field. Okay, so you essentially, this is what we've done. We've taken this, we've put it in here, expanded, gone and answered questions. And this server is reporting impact. See related problem again, right? Echo issue number, blah blah blah, whatever, right? VMware Tools is not present on the system and needs to be installed to stabilize. Right? So again, be as descriptive as you can, capture as much information as you can. And these are the questions that ACM looks for. Is answers to these questions in your business case. So try and answer these as much as possible. Why is the CR needed? Why do you need to do this work? Does this change have to be implemented on the date requested? Does it have to be done right then? Do you actually have to do this? What are the consequences of the change is not implemented? If you did not install VMware Tools, what would occur? Right? You've got to capture all that here. So this template or the checklist is essentially to help you answer questions that ECM will look for when they review a change, or your change coordinators would look for when they review a change.
So do you think that I answered all of those questions in that template? Or in what you just typed there?
No, I just answered one of them.
Oh, okay. Well,
You've got to answer this
okay.
in the interest of time. If you want me to answer,
No, I'm just...
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a big long, could be why is it needed, to fix the server?
Okay.
Sure. Be
Right?
descriptive,
Description,
capture,
but it doesn't have to take up the whole field.
not necessarily. Yeah,
I mean, if you need to explain it all, but
Yeah.
you don't need to get too crazy.
Dude, I'm just
You don't
I'm trying to capture the whole thing.
So we just can't put because.
no,
Because I said so.
no, not acceptable.
I like going in and fixing stuff.
All right, so the next field here, we got 15 minutes. The installation and game plan. Again, questions are listed here. Make an attempt to answer. Now, this one, I recommend being as detailed as possible.
Yeah,
You have to list step by step sequence of tasks that you're going to perform. What is the server you're going to touch? When are you going to do it? Is it going to span multiple days? Are you going to do it during the cow? All that has to be written up here. Okay, so if your change is already done, you've done it during the cow, document the work was done during the cow, business was impacted, echo number, blah, blah, blah. Put all that information here. It's important to document.
So would you say RDP to server, login
Mhm.
as administrative
Yeah.
equivalent,
You can.
da,
Absolutely.
or do you just? You said as detailed as possible.
You can so I'll tell you what I do. When I put it in there and I'm
problem
implementing it, I essentially log into the server and execute this, execute a sequence of steps. If you're handing it off to someone, I don't want to make the statement, but if you're handing it off to someone, state RDP to the system, log into the system. So it really depends.
Okay.
If you're the execution, you're going to implement it. Again, be as detailed,
Be as clear as possible.
yeah, as clear as possible.
That way when somebody comes along later and says, what did you do? Why did
Yeah.
you do it?
Yep, it's all captured.
It's all
Yeah, it's right in front of you. Don't be very vague. Don't say executed this command. You know what I mean? And rebooted the box. So be a little bit more descriptive than that, right? So say this was the hotfix. If you have the hotfix number or the patch information, or if you have a layered product you install, indicate the layered product name, OVO version, something, right?
Right.
Try and capture all that detail in here. Don't be vague. Don't leave room for ambiguity. Someone to say, he says OVO, which version did he install, right? Did he install 8.6, 8.7, OVO 11? Yeah, don't leave room for ambiguity. Be detailed there. If you are making a change to an operating system parameter, make sure you document in there. The system was 4 gigs, change it to 8 gigs. It was sitting on C drive, you pointed it to D drive or kept it, you know what I mean? So later on, let's say a month from now, if someone opens up that CR tied to the asset, they know exactly what you've done. Right? So initially, ECRs will take you some time, right? If you're very new to change, it'll probably take some time. When you get used to it, it'll be quick. You'll know exactly how to document everything. Right? All right. I see folks are winding down already. So let's go to recovery plan. So recovery plan, again, please read this. It's extremely important that you have a recovery plan documented. You have to know what to do in the event that change is not successful, right? Something goes wrong, how do you back out? You have to capture that. So,
Do opposite of installation plan is not
no. That's not acceptable. I mean, they've stated here, fix and fall forward, call engineer are not acceptable.
Start at step 10, go to step 1.
So another question here is, what is the estimated time of length to perform a full recovery? So let me say this. This is a tricky question, right? The response that I usually put here is, if the system is stable, because it really depends on what the state of the machine is when you do a recovery, right? If your box is hot down, you can't quite say, well, uninstalling the hotfix is going to take me 10 minutes. So I usually, in this particular question, I state, if the system is up and running, uninstalling this hotfix is going to take me 30 minutes. That's how I write my sentence, right? Be very clear. Your system has to be operational, and then your recovery, your backing out of the hotfix will take me so much of time. So there's no ambiguity. If your box is hot down, then you state recovery will depend on the state of the machine, right? So if your system is down, you know you will have to recover it, put cycles, sometimes rebuild, right? Those scenarios can occur. So be very careful when you answer that. Okay? Then what is the notification and escalation requirement? Is there anyone else you have to notify other than the app team? So normally the response is notify the application team. If there's business impact, we go to Echo, and should they're notified that there's an impact, right? Who is going to perform recovery? If there are ECRs that we initiate for the OS, for the operating system, hardware, layer products, we do recovery, right? We're going to be involved. But we do always here indicate application team functionality will be recovered, tested, verified by the application team. Capture that. You don't want to be tied or held accountable for validating or recovering the application. So you always state recovery of the operating system or the change will be performed by SMNC Windows, or indicate a name and a contact number if you're going to be tied to it, and also indicate application recovery will be performed by the app team, and indicate that application team name.
So some of the things you just pointed out were qualified as best practices. We added as well as
Yeah, we are going to create a template and add those in there. We will, yes. This is just an overall checklist we quickly created to get our team started. And, make sure you answer questions.
Those questions have been around since PIC days.
Yeah, it has been around for a long time. But when CRs get created, there are a lot of stuff that's left out. So what we've done is taken them and said, here's your checklist right in front of you, here's your document, answer this question to get this done.
So recovery plan, it's already been, we're talking about ECRs and doing it after it's already done. You still put a recovery plan
You need
even
to
though it's
have
already
that.
fixed.
You have to document it, yes. So you perform the change, installation is done, but the issue occurs after 4 days, 5 days. Your recovery will be useful then, so you have to capture. Just as recovery, the other field here is verification. Again, very important here. So verification is, who's going to verify the app, right? Who will be performing the verification? Contact information has to be put there. Again, this is where we state OS functionality will be done by SMNC Prod Support Windows. Application or database functionality will be tested, verified by the application team. Right? Capture that, make it very clear. So you are not responsible for verifying the app or the database. Questions? No? Okay. Let's move on. How much time do we have? 10 minutes. Okay. Okay.
No, you can't.
So I'm just going to put in this content in here. I'm going to say save and continue to move this forward. Now, everyone has done change records, so I'm assuming you know why you have to do the save and continue, right? You have to ensure you answer information in all of these tabs, and only then will you have another button here that lights up. Right? That button there is where you click to actually submit the change for approval. Right? So you have to ensure you go through each of these tabs using save and continue. Right? Now, installation start date, if the change has already occurred, right, you would indicate the time when you actually implemented the change. If it's in the future, indicate that future date. Right? It's very simple. So let's say I put in tomorrow at 6. This one is 8. Right? So what was our rule as far as something in the future? What do we do here?
Work order.
Yeah, so just add a work order if it's something in the future. Again, determination is it 1 hour later on? Make that judgment call, right? Do you really need a work order? Well, if it's after an hour, maybe not. It's future, but maybe not. If it's 2 days down the line, attach a work order to it, right? So that rule of in the future doesn't apply if it's...
Or somebody else is going to have to do it on
Yeah,
their shift.
exactly. Yep.
They have something
You're
to
going to
work out.
Or if you have many teams who are going to coordinate that change with you, like VE will be involved, storage will be involved. You've got to add those work orders here, right? Now, every team has their own lead time requirements, right? Some teams will have 7 days, some will have 5. If this is an emergency, those lead times don't apply, correct? That's what emergency is. You want that change implemented immediately. Lead times don't apply in that case. But what you have to document here is the justification, right? What happened? Why are you doing an emergency? To document that information, why it is an emergency, right? Echo issue number, whatever, the system is down and having application impact, and this needs to be recovered immediately, or this change has to be deployed. Everyone getting it?
Yep.
Everyone's unwinding, okay, ready to go.
Yeah, freeze dates don't apply to emergency changes.
So I'm gonna put a very, this has to be a little detailed, not a one-liner, but for this change. It has to be a little descriptive, right? Why is this an emergency? So indicate application impacted, echo incident number this, see related problem ticket, VMware tools is missing, needs to be installed. Right? Makes sense? You gotta justify why this is an emergency.
Do freeze dates apply to
No,
emergency?
if there's a production impact, nothing applies, right? Recover. You've got to recover the customer. Are you trying to bypass the need to create an emergency?
I was asking his question.
When you click on next, this is where you essentially, do your risk calculation. So there's something called an impact. There's something called as probability, right? Probability is a sum of all these numbers, these factors, and they make up the probability. The CRL is calculated based off, the product of these two, there is a range. So if it's 0 to 50, this becomes a CRL 5. So it really depends. On a few factors. I'll show you an ACM document. I think everyone should read this. I think we have a link to this. So there is a procedures document here. If you are interested, maybe I can show it to you tomorrow since I'm here. In the ECM website, there is this document called as Talk Change Management Process. So if you're interested in the specifics on, hey, how does this CRL get calculated, that document has that detail. Okay, if it is 0 to 50, what is the CRL number? CRL 5, that's the lowest it can be. If it is 50 to 200, what is your CRL? All that information is there. Again, I don't remember the range, but it's documented in that particular document. So it's this is a sum of all of these numbers, right? You multiply the impact and probability to get something called a risk, right? And depending on the risk range, there is something called a CRL that gets calculated. Okay? The more failures you have, the more changes that are unsuccessful, these numbers go up. Right? They classify, this group's changes have been usually problematic. Another variable that ties into your calculation is the asset. If that asset has had problems, right, you have many incidents that are